Captain Deho stood on the bridge of his ship, the eternal vigilance, watching the stars pass by through the massive viewing window. He had served the Valkyran Empire for 30 years, and in all that time he had never questioned the Empire's strength. The Valkyran controlled 40 star systems, commanded armies of millions, and maintained peace through power. No one could challenge them. No one would dare. But today something felt different. Dr. Bora, a scientist who studied ancient history, had requested an urgent meeting with him. She claimed to have discovered something important, something that could change everything they knew about the galaxy. Deho didn't believe in ancient mysteries or forgotten civilizations, but Dr. Bora was a respected scholar. If she said it was important, he had to listen. Dr. Bora entered the bridge carrying a data tablet. Her face was pale and her hands trembled slightly as she approached him. Commander Hyuk, Deho's second-in-command, stood beside him with his arms crossed. Hyuk didn't trust scientists. He believed in weapons and soldiers, not stories and theories. Captain, Dr. Bora said, her voice barely above a whisper, I found something on Corvin Prime, an old data cache hidden underground for thousands of years. It contains information about the Terrans. Deho frowned. The Terrans? You mean the old children's stories? The mythical warriors from the Death World? They're not myths, Dr. Bora insisted. She activated her tablet, and a holographic star map appeared in the air between them. This data cache contains real coordinates, real star charts. The Terrans were real, Captain, and I think they might still be out there. Commander Hyuk laughed. Impossible. Those are just stories parents tell their children to make them behave. Be good or the Terrans will come for you. It's nonsense, but Dr. Bora shook her head. I've spent my entire life studying these legends. Every culture in the Valkyran Empire has stories about the Terrans. They all describe the same things. A race of beings from a dangerous world. Warriors who could survive anything, who healed from terrible wounds, who never gave up no matter how badly they were hurt. The details are too consistent to be coincidence. Deho studied the star map. The coordinates pointed to a sector of space that was marked as forbidden territory. No Valkyran ship had entered that region in over 3,000 years. The official record said the area was too dangerous, filled with radiation and unstable stars. But what if there was another reason? What do you want from me? Deho asked. I want you to take me there, Dr. Bora said. I want to find out if Terra is real. If the Terrans still exist. We need to know the truth. Commander Hyuk stepped forward. Captain, this is foolish. We have no reason to enter forbidden space chasing fairy tales. The High Council would never approve this mission. Deho was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the star map, at the coordinates pointing to unknown space. Part of him agreed with Hyuk. This seemed like a waste of time and resources. But another part of him, a part he rarely listened to, was curious. What if the legends were true? What if there was something out there that the Empire had forgotten? I'll take a small fleet, Deho finally said. 3 ships, no more. If we find nothing, we turn back. Dr. Bora, you have one chance to prove your theory. Dr. Bora's face lit up with relief and excitement. Thank you, Captain. You won't regret this. But as Deho gave the orders to prepare the ships, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was making a terrible mistake. 3 days later, Deho's small fleet arrived at the edge of the forbidden sector. The moment they crossed the boundary, their sensors went crazy. Energy readings flooded the screens, showing thousands of artificial objects in space. Satellites stationed structures so large they could be seen from millions of kilometers away. That's impossible, Commander Hyuk whispered, staring at the displays. Nothing could build something like this. Our best engineers couldn't create these structures. Dr. Bora was almost in tears. I was right. Terra is real. The Terrans are real. As they moved deeper into the system, they saw it. A blue and green world covered in oceans and clouds orbiting a yellow star. It was beautiful, unlike any planet Deho had ever seen, and surrounding it were more ships than he could count. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands, all different sizes and designs. Captain, we're being scanned. The communications officer reported. Multiple sources, incredibly powerful. They know we're here. Before Deho could respond, ships appeared around them. They seemed to materialize from nothing, moving faster than anything he had ever seen. Sleek, elegant vessels that made his warships look like ancient relics. The fleet was surrounded in seconds. Should we power weapons? Commander Hyuk asked, his hand hovering over the control panel. No, Deho said firmly. If they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. Stand down. Weapons stay offline. A message came through the communication system. The voice spoke in perfect Valkyran with no accent or hesitation. "Welcome to the Sol system. This is human territory. State your purpose." Deho's blood ran cold. Humans. The Terrans called themselves humans. They were real and they were here. And they had technology that made the mighty Valkyran Empire look primitive. "This is Captain Deho of the Valkyran Empire," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We come in peace. We wish to learn about your people." There was a pause, then the voice replied, "We've been waiting for you, Captain Deho. Please follow our escort ships to the lunar station. We have much to discuss." The human ships turned and began moving toward a massive space station orbiting a gray moon. Deho had no choice but to follow. As they approached the station, he saw that it was larger than any city on any Valkyran world. Millions of beings must live here, maybe more. Dr. Bora stood beside him, tears streaming down her face. "They're real," she whispered. "The legends are all true," but Deho felt no joy, only a growing sense of dread. If the Terrans were real, if they had this much power, then what else from the legends was true? The stories said the Terrans were warriors, unstoppable and relentless. The stories said they came from a world so dangerous that it made them nearly impossible to kill. And now the Valkyran Empire had found them, or perhaps the humans had allowed themselves to be found. Either way, Deho realized that everything was about to change. The galaxy would never be the same again. As his ship docked with the human station, Captain Deho took a deep breath and prepared to meet the beings from the legends. He only hoped that his people would survive what came next. The docking bay was enormous, easily 10 times the size of any Valkyran facility. Captain Deho walked down the ramp from his ship, flanked by Commander Hyuk and Dr. Bora. His security team followed close behind, though Deho knew their weapons would be useless if the humans decided to attack. The technology gap was simply too vast. A group of humans waited for them at the bottom of the ramp. They looked remarkably similar to Valkyran in basic structure: 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. But there were differences. They seemed shorter on average, but their build suggested strength and resilience. Their eyes held an intensity that made Deho uncomfortable. One of the humans stepped forward. She was a woman with dark hair pulled back in a simple style. She wore a formal uniform that marked her as someone important. "Captain Deho," she said in perfect Valkyran. "I am Ambassador Jiwan. Welcome to Luna Station. We're pleased to finally meet you." "Finally?" Deho repeated. "You say that as if you expected us." Jiwan smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We've been monitoring your empire for a very long time, Captain. When Dr. Bora discovered the data cache on Corvin Prime, we knew you would come. We made sure you would find it," Dr. Bora gasped. "You wanted us to find you? But why hide for thousands of years only to reveal yourselves now?" "Come," Jiwan said, gesturing toward a corridor. "Let me show you something, and then we'll talk." They walked through the station, and Deho couldn't stop staring at everything around him. The walls were made of materials he didn't recognize. The lighting had no visible source. Beings moved through the corridors with purpose. Humans of all ages, from children to elderly, all seemingly comfortable in this massive structure in space. He saw technology that shouldn't exist. Holographic displays that responded to gestures. Robots that moved with fluid grace, and windows that showed the blue world below in stunning detail. Jiwan led them to a large conference room with a table made of dark wood, a material Deho had only seen on the oldest Valkyran worlds. Around the table sat more humans. One of them, a man in a military uniform covered in medals and insignia, stood as they entered. "This is Admiral Minho," Jiwan said. "He commands our Sol Defense Fleet." Admiral Minho nodded but didn't smile. "Captain, Commander, Doctor, please sit." As they took their seats, another human entered, a woman carrying several data tablets. "This is Dr. Yunji," Jiwan explained. "She's our leading expert on Valkyran biology and culture." Dr. Bora looked stunned. "You study us?" "We study everyone," Dr. Yunji said gently. "It's important to understand our neighbors even if they don't know we exist." Jiwan activated a holographic display that showed a timeline. 5,000 years ago, human explorers left Sol system for the first time. We discovered your people, the early Valkyran civilization on your home world. You had just developed basic spaceflight. We were excited to meet you, hopeful for peaceful contact. The display showed images of primitive Valkyran cities and crude spacecraft. Then it showed human ships approaching. But the meeting went wrong, Jiwan continued, her voice heavy with regret. A misunderstanding led to violence. Your people attacked our ships believing we were invaders. We defended ourselves. The display shifted to show battle scenes. Human ships destroying Valkyran vessels with ease. Cities burning. Thousands dead. Taiho felt sick watching it. We had superior technology, Jiwan said. We could have conquered your world in days. But we didn't want conquest. We wanted friends. So we made a choice. The display showed human ships leaving, pulling back from Valkyran space. We withdrew. We established a quarantine around Sol System. We decided to give your people time to develop on your own without our interference. The legends, Dr. Bora whispered. The stories of the Terrans. Their distorted memories of that war. Yes, Jiwan confirmed. Over thousands of years, the truth became myth. We became monsters in your stories. Warnings about the dangers of the unknown. But we never left completely. We watched. We monitored your progress. We saw your empire grow. Commander Hugh leaned forward, his face angry. You watched while our people struggled? While we fought wars and suffered? Admiral Minho spoke for the first time, his voice cold and hard. We watched while you conquered 12 other species. We watched while you forced weaker civilizations to submit to your empire. We watched while you stripped planets of resources and enslaved populations. Yes, Commander, we watched. And we did not approve. The room fell silent. Taiho felt his face burning with shame. The Admiral was right. The Valkyran Empire had done terrible things in the name of peace and prosperity. Why reveal yourselves now? Taiho asked quietly. Jiwan's expression softened slightly. Because your empire has expanded too far. There are young civilizations in nearby sectors, species that are just learning to reach for the stars. Your fleets are moving toward their territories. We made a promise long ago to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The quarantine is over because we can no longer stand aside. What do you want from us? Taiho asked, though he already knew the answer would be difficult to accept. We want peace, Jiwan said simply, but not the peace you've created through domination. Real peace. We want you to free the species you've conquered. We want you to reform your government, to give your subject peoples a voice. We want you to join us as equals in a galactic community built on cooperation, not force. Commander Hayuk stood abruptly. You can't demand this. The High Council will never agree. You're asking us to dismantle everything we've built. Admiral Minho stood as well, his eyes hard. Then perhaps you need to see what you're refusing. He looked at Jiwan, who nodded. Admiral Minho has prepared a demonstration, Jiwan said. Please follow us to the observation deck. They walked to a massive room with windows that showed the black of space and the distant stars. In the distance, Taiho could see a single human ship, smaller than his flagship. Nearby floated several dozen target drones, each one the size of a Valkyran fighter craft. Watch carefully, Admiral Minho said. The human ship suddenly moved, accelerating so fast it seemed to teleport from one position to another. Beams of pure energy lanced out from it, striking the drones with perfect precision. Each drone exploded in a flash of light. The ship deployed smaller craft, hundreds of them, that moved in perfect coordination like a swarm of insects. They surrounded the remaining drones and destroyed them in seconds. Then the ship did something that made Taiho's heart stop. It disappeared completely, vanishing as if it had never existed. A moment later, it reappeared behind where the drones had been, having somehow moved faster than light without entering the normal channels used for interstellar travel. That's a destroyer, Admiral Minho said quietly. One of our smallest combat vessels. We have thousands like it. Our cruisers are 10 times more powerful. Our battleships can level continents, and we have weapons you cannot imagine, technologies that would seem like magic to you. Taiho couldn't speak. He could barely breathe. The demonstration had lasted less than 5 minutes, but in that time, he had seen his entire civilization's military might rendered obsolete. Dr. Bora was crying silently. Commander Hyuk looked like he might be sick. They all understood what this meant. We don't want war, Jiwan said gently. We're showing you this because we want you to understand that war is not an option. If your empire refuses our terms, we will liberate the conquered worlds by force. It will not be a battle. It will be a rescue operation. Admiral Minho handed Taiho a data crystal. This contains our full proposal, every detail of what we're asking. Take it to your High Council. They have 1 week to respond. If they refuse or if they try to attack us, the consequences will be severe. Taiho took the crystal with numb fingers. Everything had changed in a single afternoon. The mighty Valkyran Empire was suddenly small and weak, facing beings who could destroy them without effort. "Why are you doing this?" Daiho asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "If you're so powerful, why give us a choice at all?" Jiwon smiled sadly. "Because we believe in choice, Captain. Because we hope you'll choose to be better than you have been. Because we remember being young and foolish once and someone gave us a chance to grow. We're offering you that same chance." As they prepared to return to their ships, Dr. Yunji approached Dr. Bora. "I've read all your work," she said kindly. "Your theories were correct. I hope when this is over we can work together." Dr. Bora managed a weak smile through her tears. "I'd like that." The journey back to Valkyran space felt like a funeral march. Daiho kept thinking about the human destroyer, about the casual display of overwhelming power. The Terrans from the legends were real, and they were far more terrifying than any story had suggested. Not because they were monsters, but because they were merciful, and that mercy came with expectations the Empire might not be able to meet. The High Council chamber on Valkor Prime was massive, built to impress and intimidate. 12 thrones arranged in a circle, each representing one of the conquered species now serving the Empire. At the center stood Captain Daiho, feeling very small despite his rank and accomplishments. Around him, holographic displays showed the recordings from his encounter with humanity, the images of their impossible technology, the single destroyer that had made his warships look like toys. Supreme General Taejin watched the recordings with growing fury. He was old but still powerful, his body covered in scars from 100 battles. He had built his reputation on strength and had never lost a war. "This is unacceptable," he growled. "You expect us to surrender to these humans, to dismantle our empire because they threaten us?" Counselor Yuna, the head of the diplomatic corps, shook her head. "It's not surrender, General. They're offering us a partnership, a chance to join them as equals." "Equals?" Taejin laughed bitterly. "We would be their pets, their students, forever inferior. No, I refuse to accept this." Dr. Bora stepped forward, her voice shaking but determined. "General, you saw the demonstration. One of their small ships destroyed dozens of targets in seconds. They have technology centuries ahead of ours. Fighting them would be suicide." Intelligence Director Seojun spoke up from his throne. He was thin and calculating, always suspicious of everything. "How do we know this isn't a trick? Maybe these humans are not as powerful as they claim. Maybe this was all staged to frighten us into submission." Commander Hayuk, standing beside Daiho, responded angrily. "I was there, Director. I saw their station, their ships, their weapons. This was no trick. They could have destroyed us at any moment. They chose not to." "Exactly," Seojun said, leaning forward. "They chose not to. Why? Perhaps because they're not as strong as they pretend. Perhaps they fear a real battle with our Grand Armada." Counselor Yuna stood, her voice sharp. "That's insane. Did you watch the same recordings we did? Their technology is far beyond ours. We need to negotiate, not fight." The council erupted in argument. Some members supported Yuna's call for diplomacy. Others sided with General Taejin's desire to fight. A few, like Director Seojun, questioned whether the humans were even real or some elaborate deception. Daiho listened to them argue and felt despair growing in his chest. They didn't understand. They hadn't stood on that human station, hadn't felt the casual confidence of beings who knew they couldn't be defeated. The council was about to make a terrible mistake, and thousands or millions would die because of their pride. After hours of debate, General Taejin called for a vote. All those in favor of rejecting the human demands and preparing for military action? 6 hands rose. 6 members of the High Council chose war. All those in favor of negotiating with the humans? 5 hands rose. Counselor Yuna and her supporters were outvoted. "The decision is made," General Taejin announced. "We will mobilize the Grand Armada. We will show these humans that the Valkyran Empire does not bow to threats." Daiho felt like he might collapse. "General, please reconsider. This is a mistake that will destroy us." "Silence," Taejin commanded. "You are dismissed, Captain. Return to your ship and prepare for war." As Daiho left the council chamber, Dr. Bora caught up with him. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "We have to do something," she whispered urgently. "We can't let this happen. What can we do?" Daiho asked bitterly. "The council has decided. The military will follow orders. Then we warn the humans," Dr. Bora said. "We tell them what's coming. Maybe they can find a way to stop this without killing everyone." Commander Hyuk, who had been walking silently behind them, suddenly spoke. I agree. I never thought I'd say this, but the general is wrong. This isn't courage. It's suicide. Daeho looked at both of them, then made his decision. Come to my quarters. We need to talk in private. In the secure room aboard his ship, Daeho, Hyuk, and Bora planned their betrayal. That's what it was, Daeho knew. Betraying their own people, their own empire. But if they did nothing, the empire would be destroyed anyway. At least this way. Maybe some lives could be saved. Using encrypted channels that Dr. Bora had learned about from the human data cache, they sent a message to Ambassador Jiwon. The message was simple. The Council chose war. The Grand Armada mobilizes in 48 hours. Target is Sol system. Please find a way to stop this without destroying us all. The response came within an hour. It wasn't a private message. Instead, every communications device in the Valkyran Empire suddenly activated at once. Every screen, every speaker, every holographic display showed the same thing. Ambassador Jiwon's face. People of the Valkyran Empire, she said calmly. We know about your High Council's decision to attack humanity. We know your Grand Armada is mobilizing. We are giving you this one warning. Stand down. Do not attack Sol system. If you proceed with this invasion, we will defend ourselves with overwhelming force. Many of you will die. Your ships will be destroyed. Your military will be shattered. Please do not let your leaders make this mistake. The message played on repeat for 10 minutes before cutting off. Across the Empire, billions of Valkyran citizens saw it and understood that their government had just declared war on beings far more powerful than themselves. General Taijin was furious. He ordered an immediate investigation to find the traitor who had warned the humans. But he didn't stop the mobilization. If anything, the human message only made him more determined to attack. They're afraid, he told his officers. That message proves it. They're trying to frighten us into backing down because they know they can't win. We will proceed as planned. The Grand Armada gathered in orbit around Valkor Prime. 10,000 warships. The combined military might of 12 species. The largest fleet ever assembled in Valkyran history. Soldiers boarded the ships believing they were about to make history, about to prove that no one could threaten the Empire and survive. Daeho watched the Armada assemble from his ship's bridge. He had tried everything he could think of to stop this. He had argued with the Council, warned his fellow officers, even considered staging a military coup. Nothing had worked. The Empire was committed to war. Commander Hyuk stood beside him, looking at the massive fleet. Do you think any of them will survive? He asked quietly. I don't know, Daeho admitted, but I don't think the humans want to kill them all. If they did, they could have destroyed us when we first entered their system. They're trying to avoid bloodshed. Then why not just leave? Hyuk asked. Why not run away before the fleet arrives? Because running would mean abandoning Earth, Daeho said. And I don't think humans abandon their home. Not ever. Dr. Bora joined them on the bridge. She had been relieved of her position at the university for her treasonous sympathies toward the enemy, but she didn't seem to care. I managed to send one more message to the humans, she said. I told them that not everyone in the Empire supports this war. I asked them to remember that. Will they listen? Hyuk wondered. I hope so, Bora replied. I really hope so. The Grand Armada launched 2 days later. 10,000 ships entered faster than light travel, heading toward Sol system and what they believed would be a glorious victory. General Taijin commanded from his flagship, the Invincible, surrounded by his most loyal officers. As the fleet traveled through the void between stars, Taijin gave speeches to boost morale. We are the Valkyran Empire, he declared. We have conquered 12 species. We have brought order to 40 star systems. No one can stand against us. These humans may have advanced technology, but we have numbers and courage. We will show them that the Empire does not back down from threats. The soldiers cheered. They believed him. They trusted him. They had no idea they were being led to slaughter. Daeho remained on Valkor Prime, ordered to stay behind and defend the home world. But he knew the real battle would be at Earth. He could only wait and hope that somehow the humans would find a way to stop the war without killing everyone. When the Grand Armada finally emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Sol system, the soldiers aboard those ships saw something that turned their cheers into silence, something that made even General Taijin pause in his victory speech. The sky was dark with human ships. Thousands upon thousands of them, more than the Valkyran scanners could count. They hung in perfect formation around Earth, a wall of metal and power that made the Grand Armada look small despite its size. And from the human fleet came a single message, broadcast to every Valkyrian ship. Final warning. Withdraw now, or we will interpret your presence as an act of war. Choose wisely. General Tajan stared at the human fleet for a long moment. Then he smiled, a cold, bitter smile. All ships, he commanded. Attack. The Grand Armada's weapons fired as one. 10,000 ships unleashed everything they had. Missiles streaked through space by the millions. Plasma torpedoes burned bright against the darkness. Kinetic rounds flew at incredible speeds, each one capable of destroying a city. It was the most devastating attack in Valkyrian military history, enough firepower to destroy entire planets. The human fleet didn't move. They simply waited. Then their defensive systems activated. Beams of light shot out from the human ships, intercepting missiles and torpedoes with perfect accuracy. Point defense cannons tracked and destroyed thousands of projectiles per second. Energy shields appeared around the larger vessels, shimmering barriers that absorbed the kinetic rounds without even flickering. In less than a minute, 98% of the Valkyrian attack had been neutralized. The remaining 2% of weapons that got through hit the human shields and did nothing. No damage, no effect at all. Aboard the Invincible, General Tajan stared at his screens in disbelief. His officers were shouting reports, but he barely heard them. The greatest attack his empire had ever launched, and it had accomplished nothing. Impossible, he whispered. This is impossible. Then the humans returned fire, and Tajan learned what real power looked like. The human destroyers moved first. They were small and fast, darting between the Valkyrian ships like predators hunting prey. When they fired, beams of pure energy lanced out, so hot and focused that they cut through Valkyrian armor like it was paper. A single shot could slice a warship in half. The destroyers fired again and again, each shot finding its target with perfect precision. Next came the human cruisers. They launched weapons that Tajan didn't understand, devices that seemed to bend space itself. Wherever these weapons hit, Valkyrian ships simply crumpled inward as if crushed by invisible hands. Hundreds of vessels were destroyed in seconds, their crews killed before they even knew what was happening. But the worst were the drones, millions of them, pouring out of the human ships like swarms of insects. Each one was small, no bigger than a Valkyrian fighter, but they moved with perfect coordination. They surrounded Valkyrian ships, attaching themselves to hulls and engines. Then they exploded, hundreds at a time, tearing apart armor and breaching reactors. The drones didn't miss. They didn't hesitate. They were relentless. The battle lasted 1 hour. In that time, the Grand Armada lost 2,000 ships. 2,000 vessels, each one carrying a crew of hundreds or thousands, simply ceased to exist. Families destroyed. Lives ended, dreams cut short, and the humans hadn't lost a single ship. Not one. In the command center on Valkor Prime, Captain Deho watched the battle through remote feeds. He felt sick. He had known this would happen, but seeing it was different. Watching his people die, knowing he could have done more to stop it, was almost unbearable. Dr. Bora stood beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Make it stop," she whispered. "Someone please make it stop." Commander Hayek's face was pale, his hands clenched into fists. The general has to surrender. He has to stop this madness, but General Tajan wasn't surrendering. If anything, the losses only made him more determined. He had built his entire life on strength and victory. Admitting defeat now would destroy everything he was. So instead, he made a decision that revealed how far pride could drive a person into darkness. "All ships," he ordered, his voice cold and hard. "Change targets. Aim for Earth itself. If we cannot win, we will make them pay the highest price." His officers stared at him in horror. "General, that's a civilian target. Billions of innocents live on that world." "They started this war by threatening us," Tajan snarled. "Now they'll pay for it. Target Earth, fire everything." Across the Grand Armada, captains hesitated. Some refused the order outright. Others, loyal to Tajan or simply too disciplined to question commands, complied. Hundreds of ships turned toward the blue and green world below them, charging their weapons to bombard the surface. The attack never reached Earth. The human fleet moved with incredible speed, positioning themselves between the planet and the Valkyrian ships. They formed a wall, a barrier of metal and energy that nothing could penetrate. Then something extraordinary happened. From Earth's surface, more ships began to rise. These weren't military vessels. They were cargo ships, transport craft, private vessels, even small personal spacecraft. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands, all rising from the planet to join the defensive formation. Admiral Minho's voice broadcast across both fleets, carried on every communication channel. You came to our home believing we were weak. You were wrong. But strength is not measured by weapons alone. Every human on Earth has volunteered to defend their world. From our eldest citizens to our youngest, we stand united. This is what you face, not just our military, but the unbreakable will of an entire species that has survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and the void of space itself. We will not yield, we will not surrender, and we will never stop fighting for our survival. In that moment, watching millions of humans rise to defend their home, Captain Deho finally understood what made them so dangerous. It wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their spirit. It was their absolute refusal to give up, their willingness to sacrifice everything to protect what they loved. Deho made his decision. He turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to all Valkyran military frequencies. Maximum priority, sir. Do it now. The channel opened and Deho spoke with all the authority he could command. This is Captain Deho to all ships of the Grand Armada. I am ordering an immediate ceasefire. All vessels will power down weapons and await further instructions. General Tajin is relieved of command, effective immediately. Silence fell across the command center. Commander Hyuk stepped forward. I support Captain Deho's order, he said loudly. All ships stand down. Then other voices joined in. Captains who had served with Deho, officers who had seen the futility of this battle, even some of Tajin's own subordinates who couldn't stomach attacking a civilian world. One by one, they added their support. This is treason, General Tajin roared from his flagship. I'll have you all executed. All ships ignore these orders and continue the attack. But no one listened to him anymore. Across the Grand Armada, ships powered down their weapons. Some captains who still supported Tajin tried to continue fighting, but the human fleet moved with surgical precision, disabling those vessels without destroying them. Within 10 minutes, the Battle of Saul was over, but the story wasn't finished. The human fleet could have destroyed the remaining Valkyran ships. They had every right to eliminate the threat completely. Instead, they did something that shocked everyone watching. Human medical ships moved forward, approaching damaged Valkyran vessels. Rescue teams in spacesuits began pulling survivors from wrecked ships, bringing them to safety. Human doctors treated Valkyran wounded with the same care they would give their own people. Aboard one of those rescue ships, a young Valkyran soldier found himself being carried by a human medic. The soldier's leg was badly injured and he was in terrible pain. "Why are you helping me?" he asked through gritted teeth. "We tried to destroy your world." The human medic, a woman named Soman, looked at him with kind eyes. "Because you're hurt," she said simply. "And because this war wasn't your choice. You were following orders from leaders who made terrible decisions. That doesn't mean you deserve to die." The soldier started crying then, overwhelmed by the kindness of an enemy who should have hated him. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield, humans risking their lives to save Valkyran soldiers who had just tried to kill them. It was mercy on a scale that the Valkyran Empire had never shown to anyone. In the command center on Valkor Prime, Captain Deho collapsed into his chair, exhausted and emotionally drained. He had just committed treason against his own government. He might be executed for it, but he had also saved thousands of lives by ending the battle before even more people died. Dr. Bora put a hand on his shoulder. "You did the right thing," she said quietly. Deho wasn't sure about that. He wasn't sure about anything anymore. The world he had known, the empire he had served, it had all been revealed as weak and foolish. But maybe, just maybe, this could be a new beginning. A message came through from Ambassador Jiwon. Her face appeared on the screen, looking tired but relieved. "Captain Deho, thank you for your courage. You saved many lives today, both Valkyran and human. We're ready to begin peace talks whenever your government is ready." Deho nodded slowly. "I think they're ready now, Ambassador." "They don't have much choice," Jiwon smiled sadly. "No one ever really has a choice about learning humility. But at least your people will survive to learn from this. That's more than many civilizations get." The transmission ended and Deho looked out at the stars. The galaxy had changed today. The Valkyran Empire had fallen from its position of power, humbled by beings they had believed were myths. But in falling, maybe they could learn to rise again as something better, He could only hope it was true. 3 months after the Battle of Seoul, Captain Deho stood in a place he never imagined he would see. He was on Earth, walking on the surface of humanity's homeworld. The planet was even more beautiful than it had looked from space, with blue skies, green forests, and oceans that stretched to the horizon. The air smelled different from any Valkyran world he had visited, rich with scents he couldn't quite identify. He stood on a beach, watching waves roll onto the sand. The sound was soothing, and for the first time in months, Deho felt something close to peace. So much had happened since the battle. General Tajan had been arrested and was now awaiting trial for war crimes. The High Council had been dissolved, replaced by a provisional government that was working with human advisors to reform the empire. 6 of the conquered species had already been granted independence, with the others scheduled to gain freedom within the year, and Deho himself had become something he never expected. A hero to some, a traitor to others, and a symbol of change to everyone. The provisional government had appointed him as the Valkyran Empire's official liaison to humanity, responsible for managing the difficult process of integrating 2 civilizations that had been separated for thousands of years. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" a voice said behind him. Deho turned to see Ambassador Jiwon walking across the sand. She wore simple clothes instead of her formal uniform, and she looked more relaxed than he had ever seen her. "It is," Deho agreed. "I understand now why your people fought so hard to protect it. A world like this is worth any sacrifice." Jiwon stood beside him, looking out at the ocean. "Every world is worth protecting, Captain. Earth is special to us because it's ours. But we believe every species deserves a home they can love and defend. That's why we're helping your empire change." "Some of my people don't see it as helping," Deho said quietly. "They see it as conquest by other means. They say we're being controlled by humans who pretend to be friends but really want to dominate us." "And what do you say to them?" Jiwon asked. Deho thought about it. "I tell them to look at what we were and what we're becoming. We were conquerors who took freedom from others. Now we're learning to give freedom back. That's not a bad thing, even if it's hard." They walked along the beach in comfortable silence for a while. Then Jiwon spoke again. "You know, there's someone who wants to meet you. She's been waiting for the right moment." A figure emerged from behind a cluster of rocks farther down the beach. It was Dr. Yunji, the human scientist who specialized in Valkyran biology. But she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by Dr. Bora, who had spent the last 3 months on Earth working with human scholars. "Captain," Bora called out, waving. She looked happier than Deho had ever seen her. "Come see what we've been working on." They had set up a small camp with equipment and displays showing historical data. "We've been writing a complete history of human-Valkyran relations," Bora explained excitedly. "The real story, not the myths or propaganda. It's going to be taught in schools across both civilizations." Dr. Yunji smiled. "Your Dr. Bora is brilliant. She's helped us understand how the original conflict was perceived from the Valkyran perspective. It's given us insights we never had before. And the humans have shown me their records from that time," Bora added. "I can finally prove that everything I theorized was correct. Well, mostly correct. Some details were different than I thought." Deho felt pride watching his old friend. She had risked everything to pursue the truth, and now she was helping to build a better future. "I'm glad you found what you were looking for," he said sincerely. The weeks that followed were busy with diplomatic work. A grand peace conference was held on a neutral space station that had been constructed specifically for the occasion. Representatives from the Valkyran worlds, the newly independent species, and humanity all gathered to negotiate the terms of the new galactic order. The final treaty, called the Seoul Accords, included dozens of provisions, but the most important were simple. No more conquest, no more slavery, no more forcing civilizations to submit to empire. Instead, there would be cooperation, trade, and mutual defense against external threats. Technology would be shared freely, cultural exchanges would be encouraged, and any species that wanted to join the new galactic community would be welcomed as equals. On the day the treaty was signed, Ambassador Jiwon gave a speech that was broadcast across 40 star systems. "For 5,000 years," she said, her voice carrying to billions of listeners, "we watched you from the shadows. We saw your potential and your flaws. Today marks the beginning of a new era. Not one where humanity rules over you, but where we stand together as equals. We are not your conquerors. We are your partners in the greatest endeavor any civilization can undertake. reaching for the stars together. The response was mixed. Some Valkyrians celebrated the peace and the promise of a better future. Others protested, angry about losing their empire and their status. But slowly, day by day, attitudes began to change. When humans helped rebuild war-damaged Valkyrian cities, people noticed. When human doctors provided free medical care to Valkyrian refugees, people noticed. When human teachers came to educate Valkyrian children alongside human children, teaching them to see each other as friends rather than enemies, people noticed. Commander Hayuk, who had supported Daeho's decision to end the battle, took on the difficult task of reforming the Valkyrian military. With human advisors, he worked to transform it from an army of conquest into a defensive force dedicated to protecting rather than dominating. Many old officers resigned in protest, but younger soldiers embraced the change. They had seen what real military power looked like and understood that the old ways were obsolete. "It's strange," Hyuk told Daeho during one of their meetings. "I spent my entire life learning to be a soldier for empire. Now I'm learning to be a soldier for peace. It's harder than you'd think. But worth it?" Daeho asked. Hyuk nodded slowly. "Yeah, worth it." As the months passed, signs of change appeared everywhere. The space station where the treaty had been signed became a hub of activity. Ships from dozens of different worlds arrived daily, bringing trade goods, cultural artifacts, and people eager to see the galaxy. Human merchants did business with Valkyrian traders. Human artists collaborated with musicians from species that had only recently gained their freedom. Children of different races played together, learning each other's languages and customs. One day, Daeho received an invitation to visit the new Galactic Assembly Station, a massive structure being built to serve as the permanent home for the multi-species government. When he arrived, he was amazed by what he saw. The station was enormous, dwarfing even the human Luna station, and it was still growing, with construction ships from 100 different worlds working together to expand it. Ambassador Jiwon met him at the docking bay. "What do you think?" she asked. "It's incredible," Daeho admitted. "I never imagined something like this was possible." "Neither did we," Jiwon said. "But that's what cooperation can achieve." Every species contributed something. The Valkyrian provided the initial funding and raw materials. The humans provided the advanced technology. The newly freed species provided labor and expertise in areas we hadn't considered. Together, we're building something that none of us could have created alone. They walked through the station's corridors and Daeho saw the future taking shape. A Valkyrian child chased a human child through a park area, both of them laughing. A group of scientists from 6 different species worked together on a research project. A restaurant served food from 20 different worlds, with diners of all types enjoying meals together. "Do you regret it?" Jiwon asked as they stood on an observation deck, watching ships come and go. "Everything you gave up?" Daeho thought about his old life, his position in the Empire, the respect and power he had once commanded. Then he thought about what he had now, a chance to build something better, a role in creating a future where his people could thrive without hurting others. Jiwon smiled. The legend said humans were warriors. Unstoppable, unkillable, relentless. They weren't wrong, but they missed the most important part of our story. What's that? We're not warriors because we love war. We're warriors because we love peace, and we'll fight as fiercely to protect it as we did to win it. Years passed. The galaxy continued to change and grow. New species were discovered and welcomed into the galactic community. Old conflicts were resolved through diplomacy rather than warfare. Technology advanced as different civilizations shared their knowledge freely. Captain Daeho, now officially retired from military service but busier than ever with diplomatic work, found himself thinking often about the journey that had brought him here. It had started with a simple mission to investigate old legends and had ended with the transformation of an entire civilization. He received a message one day from a young Valkyrian officer named Jiho, who was training with the new defense force. "Captain Daeho," the message read, "I wanted to thank you for what you did. My father was in the Grand Armada during the Battle of Sol. He survived because you ordered the ceasefire. He told me that when the human medics pulled him from his damaged ship, they treated him with kindness even though he had been trying to kill them. That changed him. It changed our whole family.